pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. All right, we have a fairly short agenda today. First item on the list is Daniel Lord Road. This is where we're going to relocate a bunch of the moorings. We have a few topics we want to discuss down here. We'll go right down the list. First on the list is to revoke permits of non-compliant holders. It's really not something we've done in the past.
And if I can jump in here, if I may.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, here comes Patty, let's wait. Hi, Dot. What up? Hi. We have enough vacancies to not touch this issue right now, which we'd rather not. In terms of that, do you know what I'm saying? We can make the moves.
Yeah.
That we need to make, we want to make, from the end of the road to the south side of the road without ruffling feathers. So
We were gonna
skip that.
tweak the town code.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay.
So that's for future discussion.
That's for future discussion.
Just as I think we mentioned this, is that Daniel Lord Road would serve as a pilot, this is a beginning. This is a very popular site for moorings. And we figured we'd start there based on the controversy that we've had for the last year and a half about the property line and who owns what. So it was an attempt on the part of the town to move several moorings from the southwest side of the end of the street to the south side of the road, and to put in new posts, which we did, and the town did. They put in new posts. They're all numbered. I believe there are 10 of them, right, Bo, from the dock moving east along, parallel with the road. So that's what we're attempting to do, standardize that, and it's a good starting point. And then from there, we'll branch out to other areas around the town based on working with Bo and the Bay Constables.
That's way.
You want to join us, walk us through the rest of this, please?
Well, if I may, since we have a public hearing that was adjourned on the relocation, and we're continuing it today. So I think what Bo should just brief the board, because it's not going to be available there tonight, as to where we are in coming up with a solution to find homes for those 4 displaced people. So,
And by the way, Bo spoke Monday at the WMAC meeting on the same topic.
Yeah, so hopefully we're just keeping everybody abreast.
Yeah, informed.
What's going on. So, at the last town board meeting, we had to displace 5 permit holders, like Councilman Colligan said, on the west end of Daniel Lord Road, to move forward with this sort of resolution to ongoing issues down there. I've spoken with I'm one of the people who got displaced. I've spoken with the 4 other folks who are down there. Ideally trying to just find a preference for them or where they'd like to go and see if we could be able to get everybody where they'd like to be. So 3 of them, the other folks, wanted to stay there. We have 3 vacancies down there. One elected to just assume the top position on the waiting list for that area. So he didn't really need it right this second anyway, so he's perfectly happy to just exercise his right that's afforded under the town code for a displaced person. And then the other is perfectly comfortable going to an alternate location. So that current alternate location that has vacancies is somewhat similar. Is Silver Beach Lagoon area. There's one on the North Shore. There's one along the bulkhead. Those, while generally similar, there are some differences, and some of those differences are set forth in the town code. Specifically, the cost of each of them is different than all the other moorings. But nonetheless, vacancies, the vacancies that are available will fit the displaced parties, and we'll actually still have 1 vacancy available to feed somebody off of the regular waiting list that exists. So it's hopefully
Gonna work out.
pretty decent. And I think we're working on a solution that we may be able to even mitigate or offset most of the way the cost to the displaced parties
Nice.
as well. So for something that's kind of prickly, I think we're hopefully coming to a fairly reasonable consensus, at least for those parties who are directly involved in the situation. Maybe not everybody, but the people who are directly involved, hopefully will not be put out too much.
Okay. Any questions for Bo?
No, good job, though.
Okay, so we're gonna close the hearing tonight then.
Yeah.
I won't be able to
That's
be
all right,
there,
yes, I
but
will.
that's what that is for, so.
Okay, Bo, thanks very much.
Thank you, Bill.
Yeah, could you just follow up with a quick email of that disposition? Just send it to us, and then we'll just read it into the record at the public hearing.
Yeah, okay,
Okay?
no problem.
Do you want specificity?
As to who, yeah, if you could put,
Are you gonna, well, that was actually a question I have is, what's the process for that? Like, are we just amending existing permits? Or, Dottie, I'm not quite sure what the process for that is. Like, does there have to be a whole separate hearing again? Or do we just say, okay, this person wants to go there, there's a spot there? That's great, you've got it, and the permit and go?
Yes.
Could it
That
be-
seems to be
well,
the most simple.
Well, could it be just a copy of the resolution copy of the resolution gets attached to these 5 existing permits, so now we know? I mean, and in the resolution, we have the details?
no, but you want the permit actually amended in kind, so you want the permit to be physically changed into the new
All right.
locations, but you have, the resolution is back up to that amendment in the file statement.
I'll send you an email, you do what you want.
Do you?
That's the simple one.
Yeah. Long answer, no, there doesn't have to be another hearing for these new.
Gotcha, because I think the other permittees will probably want to know that, right? Like if they have to apply again and go through, or how that's all going to work.
Yeah.
I would assume since we are doing this, that we would
Correct.
expedite.
The terms didn't expire.
Right.
So it's in the middle of that, and it's just something that we're gonna handle ministerially.
Okay, yeah, I'll send you the email and you can do with it what you see fit.
Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you all.
Thanks, Bo.
Thanks for getting a haircut for the,
Yeah, well, you
meeting.
know.
Okay, next up is Sarah Gordon's here to represent Sylvester Manor to talk about a old growth forest network program. Sarah?
Good afternoon, thank you. I'm Sarah Gordon, I'm the planner at Sylvester Manor. And on behalf of Sylvester Manor, I'm here today to invite the town board to consider adopting a resolution supporting the dedication of Sylvester Manor's southwestern woodlands into the Old Growth Forest Network. The Old Growth Forest Network is working to connect people with nature by creating a national network of old growth forests that won't be logged. Their primary goal is to dedicate one representative protected forest into this national network from each U.S. county where native forests occur. Today, most forests have now been removed or radically altered. Less than 1% of U.S. eastern forests remain. The network invites partners, public, private, and nonprofit, to set aside forests and allow them to recover their old growth characteristics. These future old growth forests will be our gift to the generations after us. If we are able to reverse the decline in mature native forests, we will be the first generation to have done so. Sylvester Manor's southwestern woodlands have been identified by the Old Growth Forest Network as an ideal Suffolk County representative. These woods are open to the public and accessible with parking and walking trails, and as mature as possible. Manor's 2013 Forest Management Plan identified this oak, hickory, pine forest as mature to overmature, with 70 to 120-year-old trees, which means they're now 80 to 130 years old. These woodlands in the southwestern corner of Sylvester Manor by the headwaters of Gardner's Creek include the 16 acres that are permanently protected by a conservation easement held by the town of Shelter Island, which acknowledges the substantial and significant value of these lands as a natural, scenic, environmental, cultural, and historic resource. These woodlands are open to the public and accessible with parking and trail access at the Quaker Meeting entrance on North Ferry Road. The Old Growth Forest Network does not seek to guide forest management techniques or decisions, supports tree removal within the network forests for trail maintenance, visitor safety, and removal of non-native invasive species. The network dedication imposes no requirements that are inconsistent with the recorded 2020 conservation easement. And although the Manor's trails are closed now for hunting on Sunday, November 27th at noon, Old Growth Forest Network founder Joan Maloof is scheduled to dedicate the Manor woodland into the network and guide a walk through a newly opened footpath to visit the magnificent giant oaks and pines within. We hope you'll join us at the dedication, and on behalf of the staff and board of Sylvester Manor, I'm requesting that the town of Shelter Island, as grantee of the conservation easement over the southwestern corner of the Manor lands, propose and adopt a resolution endorsing these lands to be entered into the Old Growth Forest Network. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
November 27th, that's a Sunday, you said?
The Sunday of Thanksgiving weekend.
And the time for that is? At noon. Thank you.
We'll be gathering at the Quaker entrance.
Yep.
Any questions?
Just out of curiosity, your copper beeches, the beautiful copper beeches that you have down there, how are they holding up against that disease?
Yeah, we have not seen the nematode on the Manor.
Okay.
We're watching for it. There are many different beaches, so we're very concerned about it.
Yeah. So, any idea how old those?
An American elm in the interior that survived Dutch elm disease, so we don't know if it's got, enough of its own buffer.
Copper beech must be 150 years old or.
It was gifted in the 1880s, so it's actually creating a new ring of offspring trees.
Oh, it is?
Because the central mass is pretty much
Yeah.
fallen over.
Okay. Thanks.
Impact.
Anything else? Very good. Sarah, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And next on the list, we discussed this budget time. I think we discussed it in one of our work sessions. The fuel surcharge at the landfill. We realized quite early on with the prices going up that we were going to run out of money for our diesel fuel and our gas. Mostly the diesel fuel because we use it at the landfill whenever we're using the equipment or the grinder or tractor trailer. So Amber and Brian and I sat down and tried to come up with a formula of how to, we looked at, what we budgeted, what our shortfall is going to be, what we've averaged in gas usage over the last 5 years. And Amber's going to walk us through it.
I have a spreadsheet.
What a surprise.
Of course. Can I get the screen share, please? I wanted to do the resolution so that we could do something scalable, but as I started to work on this, I realized there's no way easily do something. So I think we'll just, Brian's going to periodically keep an eye on it, and then as prices go up or down, we'll have to just do another resolution to adjust the fuel surcharge. But let me just show you what I found when I was doing this. Okay, so I started with where we were on the expense side of the budget. So we have 2 lines in the budget. DA has the gas and DB has the diesel. And after we get through the budget public hearing, we need to make some adjustments because what I discovered as I was digging deeper with Brian is that the diesel fuel is not just used in the trucks that go out on the highways, snow plowing, things like that, which is going into a DB fund. It's also used at the recycling center for grinding of the mulch and wood chips and things like that. So we need to move some of the diesel budget from the B funds over to the A funds because we're going to add fuel surcharge on the A fund revenues, right? And we can't cover B fund expenses on that money. So,
Right.
But Brian's working on that number for next week. When we get past tomorrow's budget hearing, then we can discuss any modifications in the budget. So that will be one for next week.
Okay.
But for now, we have gas expense line at 48,000 and diesel at 64,000. Brian pulled information to see how many gallons we use from year to year, and it was surprisingly consistent from year to year. So that 19,675 is the average gas and 23,450 gallons is the diesel. So we've budgeted, if you take those numbers, we've budgeted prices of 244 for gas and 273. The last price that we have right now is the 302 and the 387. So given our expected usage, we're going to end up with a shortfall in our existing budget of 38,170. And that's even before, that's if gas prices remain steady. So in trying to figure out what is the best percentage, looking at a 38,000 expected budget shortfall, if you look at 5%, we're at 30, we could generate a fuel surcharge of 32,000, but prices have started to go back up.
Yep.
So we didn't want to go all the way to a 10% fuel surcharge. So we're recommending 7.5% for resolution this evening. And then Brian will just keep an eye on it. I'm going to send this spreadsheet. I cleaned it up a little bit this morning. And I will send this over to Brian so that he knows that if fuel prices increase 130%, so our last price is 302, if gas goes up to 317, we're okay at the 7.5%. But as it continues to go up, and I showed you what the range for gas was over the past 5 years. The lowest was $1.46 a gallon. The highest was $3.81, averaging $2.46. We're currently at $3.02. And then the same with diesel, ranged from $1.43 to $3.97, averaging $2.45, last price being $3.87. So we're still almost at the high on diesel. So as he sees the prices increasing, then if they go up, $3.90 and $4.37, and of course, it's not going to be in step like that, but he can throw the numbers in and see we probably need to increase the fuel surcharge to 10%, and he'll have to come back and request that we do something on that. So for tonight's resolution, we've got 7.5%. So I wanted to explain to everybody where we came down on that.
Just so you understand it, every time you go over the scale, you get weighed. If it's $20, it's gonna be.
Well, these are the categories
Right.
that Brian said are impacted by, using either gas because he's carting off island in a truck, or diesel, or, mulching, whatever. So C&D in, brush in, concrete in, clean concrete, clean asphalt, stumps in, sales of sand and salt, fresh concrete, topsoil sales, cold patch sales, double grinding of chips and mulch, landfill delivery, and commercial leaf debris. So all of those categories will have the surcharge added to them. And you can see some categories are minuscule, like cold patch sales. Whereas C&D and brush are the highest. And what I suggest we do is we'll implement it now. We're already over budget, but for both gas and diesel. So we'll have to just absorb what's happened so far this year, but hopefully this will help to offset the rest of the year. We'll monitor it for 2023. And then rather than continually having this fuel surcharge, I think we should next year take a look at our prices and just, if we averaged for the whole year a 7.5% increase for this fuel surcharge, then we just incorporate that into the price and get rid of the fuel surcharge. Yeah, things stay stable.
Excellent suggestions.
And pray we don't have another shortage.
Right, yeah, I hope that, we have stable
Yeah.
pricing. So,
You always wanna have the backup of the surcharge
yeah,
in case.
yeah, no, but
Right.
we
No,
can
but it's a
also,
better way.
No, but it is a better
yeah,
way
and
to
we
do
can
it,
start
yes.
from a new base.
Amber, this is great. Very reasonable, very easy to follow, and very logical, so.
So we're gonna, if this, if we pass this evening, next week, Shelby, Amber Wilson, Debbie Speeches, and myself will sit down, and Brian will sit down and just go through how
The process of
the behind the scenes tracking all of this will work.
Yeah, we just have to go over the list. I think we have to put wood chips in there also.
Wasn't that the double grinded chips and mulch?
Oh,
No
okay,
chips in, I think.
okay, all right,
Oh, I see.
okay, so
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
resolution this
Well,
evening,
yeah.
okay, I'll look for that in between. Okay, all right, but that's.
Any
that.
other questions on this?
Nope.
No, it's just amazing. I remember when Brian came in for the budget, he quoted us the amount of fuel that the grinder uses
Yeah.
in a day.
Yeah.
If you're running a grinder for 8 hours, it's expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a big machine, does a lot of work.
And that's lower than some of the fuel charges I'm seeing on things right now. Like
Yeah.
when I get a delivery,
Yeah.
I'm getting 10%, 15%, 20% fuel charge on
Yeah.
some stuff. So
Wow.
that's,
Very reasonable.
it's reasonable considering what's
Yeah.
happening out in the greater world.
Yeah, initially 10% was proposed, and I just intuitively was like, I think that we
It's a little
need to
high, yeah.
have a better basis for assessing this on taxpayers and users.
So Amber proposed 5 and we met in the middle.
Well, I knew 5 was not quite there, but 10% was too much.
Yeah. No, that
All right.
works. I think that's.
Thank you, Amber. Okay, we'll go around the table. I'll start off real quick. This Friday, there's the pod for the COVID boost, I believe, so it's the-
It's a booster, it's yeah, I can't even say it correctly, the bivalent?
yes, we know.
Whatever that booster is. We are getting, we have signups available for 360. We have 250 signed up so far, so there's definitely room. We had some people initially on the waiting list, but as we got the nursing and vaccinators, we were able to expand it to 360. So if you go to the town website, you can sign up right there. I think the 9 o'clock slot's gone, there may be a couple other spots, but there's still plenty of spots available for people. The consent form is also on the website, so you can fill it out ahead of time, and that will just make getting in the door that much faster. Rain is in the forecast for Friday, but I think it's later in the afternoon, so like come with your forms already prepared, so we can get you inside the building faster.
Yep.
So,
Good,
Yeah,
thank you.
and I think you mentioned that if you've had COVID in the last 90 days, that
Yes.
physicians recommend that you do not get the booster now. Your body has built up the antibodies, and you're being counterproductive, to the
Right.
human response to COVID. So obviously, just wait those 90 days, but definitely it's worth going out and getting the booster after 3 months.
yeah, and also if you've had a booster within the past 2 months, you need to wait
Okay.
for that 2-month period to pass as well. But thank you for reminding me of that piece.
Anything else?
Nope.
BJ?
Yeah, WQI met last week. Interesting meeting, so 2 things were, besides the normal IA system discussions that occur. One was approving money for our long-term established agreement program that we have with Cornell Cooperative, which is 10 to 12,000 a year. It involves X number of clams, oysters, and scallops. So that's 10 to 12, and this is a new ask from the town board of the WQI to use those funds as it's in the legislation. And they agreed. They agreed that this is for this year.
Just for the public, normally we put that into the tax base, but again.
Yeah,
it's
because
eligible for-
these funds are available, yeah. So that, they approved it for this year and for next. So for 22 budget year, 23 budget year. And then there was a great presentation about a longer-term project by CCE, again, asking for WQI funds to establish oyster reef, or actually to grow the oyster reef that's already been started in Cockles Harbor, to improve eelgrass beds. Not a lot of specifics yet, but fairly specific. If you want them, should consult the meeting at WQI last week. It's a big ask, however. It's $200,000 to establish this. Again, a little vague, certainly not expected to be that much in the following years, in the years after, because again, about a decade-long horizon on this. So questions were asked. Kim Barber and Kate Rossi Snook are going to come back to the WQI with answers and more detail, so should have something, firmer. And of course, then, once the WQI weighs in on it, they will come before the town board to make the same presentation that they've made to the WQI. But I just want to give you the heads up that this is coming.
So just like expanded what they started this year?
Yeah, or yes, with the small reef project in Cockles Harbor, and it would include more. It would include now an eelgrass component, et cetera. And it's also different from what Kim Trudeau asked a few weeks ago of the WAC, which is to start a oyster garden program. So a lot of attention here on growing shellfish, Shelter Island, both for consumption and for cleaning up the waters. And so, you know, more detail necessary, but just giving you that it's coming down the pike.
Thank you. Anything else?
No, I think that's it.
Meg?
I'm good.
Jim?
Well, wait a minute, before you go, Jim, WMAC on Monday. Not a lot to report. Because I don't do the detail that Jim does.
Just sent out the minutes.
Yeah, Christina sent that out, and that's really all you guys need to know besides, you know, that, and there's a couple of things coming up later this evening. But also more discussion about the mooring fee changes. And nothing changed. The discussion was pretty much the same objections, the same questions that were raised before were raised again.
You're talking about that tomorrow, budget?
Probably.
The appropriate time.
Yeah.
The two things off of that, by the way, were the Jack's Marina mooring transfer. The WMAC unanimously supported the transfer of those moorings.
With an exception, Jim?
Yep.
The exception being that that Bo will work with Picozzi and Jax on two moorings that are too close. We had gotten a letter prior to the meeting from Willett saying this is not working for us, so
Okay.
Bo's gut feeling was they're probably both a little offsite or one's a little offsite,
Yep.
but he'll work with them to make sure that that's appropriately settled before the transfer. And then the second thing on the transfer that was discussed was that we'd like a better location data to be submitted prior to approval.
And that's in her minutes as well.
Yeah.
The other thing was the mooring fees. The WMAC unanimously opposed the budget item as it is written right there. So that was the two major things that came out of that meeting.
I do have, I remembered.
Yes.
I am sorry. Comprehensive Plan has a public workshop set for Friday, November 18th. So not this Friday, but next Friday, to go over the chapters that we've done so far. They're all available on the
What time?
website. It's at 7 PM. And it'll be here in the boardroom and available on Zoom. So, you know, which.
So that's a public meeting.
It's a public hearing, like a public workshop.
Yeah.
So people can come and bring questions, concerns.
Good.
All the chapters are available online.
Anything specific or anything they want to talk?
Nope, anything they want to talk about. So if they've read through a chapter and they have a question, a comment, anything, they can bring it up. That's the forum.
I would say on chapters that we've already,
On the chapters that we've already discussed as a.
because don't bring up zoning now.
No. On the topics that have already been discussed and reviewed as a group.
All right.
And those are available online. So those are the chapters we'll be addressing.
Okay.
Yeah, the new pavilion down at Crescent Beach is the work underway right now. Could be finished as of today or tomorrow. Obviously, it was delayed about 6 months. This was something we were looking to try to get in before Memorial Day, but COVID, always blame COVID. If you have an excuse, just go blame COVID, I guess. There was a problem getting the materials and everything else out. But it is going to be up and running. Special thanks, I guess the Lions Club is, the people of Wade's
From the grant,
Beach.
I thought. Part of the grant?
It was part, but well, we'll check on that. So we should, if we end up having a ribbon cutting kind of
Right.
thing, we should make sure that we check into that. The other thing is on Friday, Veterans Day, the service traditionally has always been at 10 a.m. It is now the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month. So it's an hour later. Our guest speaker was all in place. Sean Clark is going to be our guest speaker. Chris Kessler also is going to speak. It should be a nice ceremony. We start promptly at 11 o'clock. We should be finished by 11:30. We ask people to come up. Our mission is to pay due respect to all our veterans, both living and deceased. And I just want to thank Dave Clark. I was with him yesterday looking at the wall here with the placards going up, and folks, it's a great idea to do that. Two things that work against us: the wind, because it knocks them over a little bit, knocks them out of line. Number two is, please, if you feel that you have a relative that belongs out there on the wall and the name is not appearing there, that there's a right way to go about. Dave has got the patience of a saint. So if you just contact Commander Clark and give him the correct information. If we can't get it up, obviously, for this year, and with the storm coming up the coast, we're going to take a little careful eye on that. And we may have to take those things down sooner than we wanted to. We normally leave it up for days after Veterans Day, as we do for Memorial Day. But if it involves major winds of 40, 50 mile an hour kind of winds, you don't want these things all over 114. So we may sooner rather than later. But that's it. Look forward to seeing everybody on Friday if you can be there. Thanks.
And just, I got clarification already, Lions was not involved with that.
Okay.
Just the Reed
All
speech.
right. Okay. Thanks.
Okay. Stephen, do you have anything?
No, Mr. Plaza.
Dottie? Okay, before I turn it over, just remind everyone if they would be good enough to take down all their political signs. Season's over.
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody in the audience want to talk? John? Go on up.
I have three non-controversial, hopefully good questions. First one is, I've never been to a public hearing on the budget tomorrow. I was just curious how that's typically done. Someone not walking in here blind.
We open it up to the public. It's been available to look at, and it's just like this, public comments. The board to take public comments.
Second one is, this has come up in the WMAC over the years on the shellfish program. Is there any part of that program that examines the effectiveness of it, or whether or not these shellfish are still alive down the road? Does anybody know? Anybody heard anything? Because in the WMAC, everybody just shrugs their shoulders.
That was something we requested from them at the WQI meeting.
Yes.
Statistics and evidence that it does help and that it does have a positive benefit. So we're waiting to hear back.
Yeah.
Great. See?
I mean-
Easy questions.
I mean, the PEP is responsible for going through with the Peconic Estuary Partnership. They do go and do some type of evaluation on it during the summer, at the beginning of the summer, or the end of the summer, right before harvest time at this time of the year. They do print out material on that to say that it's been a lot of success stories in the last 2 years. We'd be lying. There hasn't been a lot of success for a variety of reasons, but the scientists are busy looking at a multitude of things that are causing these die-off of adult scallops. And, and it's an issue that's being studied by Stony Brook University. We never had the luxury of having that marine division involved in the study. They are looking at causative effects, and I think that the consensus is that it's not one thing, it's a multitude of things. Some things we can modify, and certain things that you cannot modify. Obviously, temperature of the water is something that's on a real hot summer, especially when you move further west in the Peconics, that the water temperature gets into the mid 80s, and it's 10 degrees more than what shellfish would even like, as a maximum. So one of the reasons we've been a little bit successful out here with eelgrass and shellfish is that the water temperature can be as much as 5 to 7 degrees cooler on the eastern part of the Peconics than it is in the western part of the Peconics. But they also are doing a lot of research on taking scallops and other shellfish from down south and places like Maryland, Delaware, and trying to introduce them here, because obviously in those mid-Atlantic states, the water temperature has been higher and the shellfish have adapted. They're doing the same thing, trying with other types of seagrasses, taking seagrasses that have been more successful in warmer temperatures and bringing them up north.
It sounds like the program is incorporating the type of shellfish that are most likely to thrive.
Right.
On the fuel surcharge, I was just overhearing that bit on it at the recycling center. So the 7.5% surcharge would offset the fuel expense in the budget?
The overage of the fuel expense. We already budgeted for it.
Yeah.
They're linked.
Yes.
So then, I know this is down the road, but you mentioned something about folding the surcharge into the fee. How can you then still?
Oh, no, we wouldn't, and not into the fee. We would look at the gas and diesel usage and increase the budget for that.
And then take away the fuel surcharge.
Yeah, we wouldn't do both.
Okay, I don't know how to do that, but you guys do.
Well, Amber's our, she's our expert there.
Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Thanks, John.
Anybody else?
Ron Jernick. I just got a question for the board. Is this going to become a yearly thing where board members come down and want to know whose vehicles are whose and take pictures?
Well, I'll address that, Ron. We had numerous complaints from the public of who had an election sign up. And we went to see, in fact, if there was one there. And one of the board members thought that maybe it was somebody visiting because this happened in the past. And we thought we came to an agreement that that wouldn't be done again. So is it going to be a regular thing? I guess if people are going to call us and complain, we'll need to go down and verify it, yes. And then we will discuss it coming in the code. We're going to address it.
I mean, there's also people, taxpayers that like it. You want me to have them call and say they like it? I mean, this can go both ways.
Do whatever you want, Ron. You do whatever you want. I mean, I'm telling you, we got complaints.
What's the question?
We got
The way
complaints.
the board member goes down and asks the question
Oh, no.
about.
The board member went down and asked, whose truck is that?
Yeah.
And her answer was, okay, buddy.
Oh, Buddy was a problem.
Buddy?
Sorry, actually,
Well,
we'll
we have
apologize.
we're employees, we have names. You know who we all are. You can address us by names, not buddy.
I say,
Do you want
bud.
respect?
I say all the time, hey, bud, how you doing?
No, what else, Ron? You could have just, that person could have emailed me and said that was an insulting tone or that, I mean, I would have apologized because I had no idea. I would have, no, I mean, I get that.
Last election cycle, the town spent 12 grand and it was.
I'm not about that. I just asked, I actually just wanted to answer this person and say, oh, it wasn't a town employee or it was, that's all. And I asked a question.
I do want to say,
There was no other interaction.
Ron,
Except I felt a little scared.
I was involved with the two of us were involved with, was unfortunate. And I was willing to apologize immediately for my choice of words.
Buddy was,
And the other thing was that it became very abundantly clear to me afterwards that the Democrats who had gone down there to the goodie pile before, and did campaigning, probably set the stage for all that to happen. So in fairness, I'm more of a person like, I've only got a year left on the board and I'm retired. And I won't, be a part of any of this anymore, but it just kind of, my personal feeling is that on town properties, that it was wrong for us to go down there and do what we did. And I just would like to keep a low profile and just say that on town properties, whether it's here or any place on town property, we probably shouldn't do any of those kinds of activities. That's just a personal feeling, but I'm surely open to suggestions. And again, that apology that I offered was not accepted at the time, but
We've had conversations since then.
you know that you and I have patched that thing up months and months and months ago, and same thing with everybody involved in that. And I'm a frequent person that comes up to the recycling center because I do a lot of work around the house and stuff. So, I don't want to make, and I appreciate your comments today. It's, it is what it is, and I hear you. But I wanted to be perfectly clear, and that never really came up in the first incident of a couple years ago, where that going down there campaigning and handing out literature at the goodie pile was a wrong, absolutely wrong thing to do. And it could have set up, I don't know if it factored into it or not, it's not my business, but it surely didn't help the situation at all. And it didn't make it right. So,
I go to all the rallies and stuff, and I fly my flags. The flag's been flying on my truck for
right.
over 2 weeks now, and yesterday was the day that.
And the feeling is it shouldn't be on town property.
It's on my truck. It's not on town property.
I didn't know it was your truck.
I think,
But we're gonna address it in the future. We'll have a policy in place.
Okay,
Town employees.
As long as it goes for employees and bumper stickers and everything right down the line.
We'll address it.
Ron, thank you for coming in.
Anybody else?
I appreciate it.
Bert?
So I believe, so this is the work session, then later today you're having the board meeting.
Yes.
Are you bringing up the Jack's transfer? Is that on the agenda?
That's,
Probably not.
It's on the agenda for tonight,
Yeah, right.
it won't be acted on.
but it'll be a hearing.
Oh, there's a hearing.
So it'll be tonight would be the time to address that.
Right, so there'll be the time, right, so you have to speak then.
Sure.
All right, so briefly, it was discussed at the WMAC. So, and I said something there, I addressed the WMAC. I just want to get to the point that the town board acts as the interpreter of the public trust. And you are going to be hearing from an advisory board who is going to tell you that the law is being followed, or that there's no justification that you couldn't transfer these moorings because the law says that you can, right? I just want to say that, and to me, that there was a little bit of an echo chamber because the WMAC wrote that or submitted those changes in the law to you for the town board, maybe prior to this one exactly, but the WMAC wrote the law that they are now addressing and saying that they approve the transfer. So to me, it's like you're not getting quote, another independent kind of viewpoint on it. You're hearing something from the people that actually wrote the law. So specifically, in the law, it says that you're supposed to have, it's a suggestion. I was talking to George and Picosi saying that it's suggested that you have adequate parking. It's not a requirement that you have parking. And it's suggested that you have, a bathroom facility or pump out or these other things. None of those things are required, right? So my point is that, or what I would like to get to is that the public trust is that the waterways belongs to everybody in the town. And now, Jerry, you want to raise the fees justifiably for this usage, this privilege of being able to use, town asset. But you have two classes of people. You have private moorings or individuals, and then you have a commercial or a rentable mooring to somebody on the island. And you have this construct of, because they're a business and then they have certain qualifications of that business, that they're allowed to have it or to benefit from the public trust of the waterways, and the private citizen can't. So somebody can make money off of the rental of it, but it's all equally owned by everybody in the town, enjoyed by everybody. So I'm not objecting to the transfer of most of the moorings in Jack's, possession to the new owner. I am objecting to, say, some of them that are on the peripheral, because it's not like adjacent or in what I consider within the riparian kind of mooring field. But further than that, I think I always find it absurd that because they're grandfathered in, and now they're selling, right, this grandfather, or or the new owner's buying their grandfather, right? They're buying their grandfather these moorings, but that somebody who's lived here, not just can't get a mooring over there, but can't benefit the same way that they are, you know? And so this is a corporation that's buying it. Technically, you're saying that the person is a resident, right, in this corporation, this LLC. But that person doesn't have to domicile here. But then you have somebody like me or anybody else on the waiting list who does domicile here, can't have the same enjoyment or benefit of that public trust. So they can get a mooring, but they can't rent it out. But now, and
Bert, I'm sorry. It's, you only get 3 minutes and you have like 4 or 5, but you'll have that opportunity at the public hearing if you come back.
okay, all right, so
You can also zoom in if.
all right, just one more point about, I'll just finish that. So you're doing the 2-tier, why not allow, give a private mooring, a person, the choice, if they want to pay $150 a year for it to be private, give them the choice to pay $300 a year and be able to rent it, just like anybody else. And then, of course, there'll be counter arguments for that, but you can make it available. Okay? That's it.
Thanks, Bert.
Thanks, Bert.
Thanks, Bert.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Anybody on Zoom? Joe, did you have anything? No. Okay, Julia?
I'm fine, thank you.
Okay.
No, thanks, Jerry.
Okay, if there's no questions or comments, I'm gonna make a motion. We go into executive session to discuss contract negotiations.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Have a nice day.